The city lights blurred into silver streaks as rain poured down, mirroring the silent storm in Alexander Knight's heart. He was the youngest CEO in his company's history, a man who moved markets with a single word. But tonight, all he could see was the tiny pink backpack hanging on his office coat rack. Rosy blush, his late wife's favorite color, belonged to his 7-year-old daughter, Emily. She was asleep on the couch again, her small hand clutching a stuffed rabbit, waiting for him. Waiting for a father who was always stuck in just one more meeting, he loosened his tie. The familiar, not feeling tighter than usual. He could command boardrooms and face down ruthless investors without flinching, yet the sight of his sleeping daughter made him feel utterly powerless. She deserved fairy tales and laughter, not the cold silence of a penthouse office. The next morning, Emily stood before him, her pigtails adorably messy. In her hands, she held a crumpled flyer. "Daddy," she began, her voice a soft whisper, "we're having a school play next week and ... and everyone's mom is coming." Alexander felt his world freeze. He knew what was coming next, but he still had to ask, and he managed, his own voice barely audible. Her bright blue eyes, so much like her mother's, flickered with a desperate hope. "Could you ... could you ask someone to pretend to be my mom, just for the play?" The words were a gut punch, a blade twisting in his chest. He crouched down, trying to meet her gaze, to explain. "Sweetheart, But she cut him off, her voice trembling. "Please, Daddy, just this once." How could he say no to that? A couple of days later, Alexander found himself in a downtown café, a place he frequented for his morning coffee. A new face was behind the counter. Her name was Clara Hayes, and her smile was like the first ray of sunshine after a long winter. She was working 2 jobs, saving up for art school, but her warmth wasn't dimmed by exhaustion. Her laugh was soft, her eyes kind, and when she spoke to Emily, who was clutching a pink cup of hot chocolate, her voice was laced with a sweetness that melted even Alexander's armor. That's when Emily, emboldened by the kindness she felt, looked up at the stranger with wide, innocent eyes. "Ma'am, can you pretend to be my mom for our school play?" Clara froze, nearly dropping the cup she was holding. Your mom." Alexander's face flushed with embarrassment. "Emily, we talked about this," he started, mortified. But Clara wasn't looking at him. She was looking at Emily's hopeful face, at the pleading in her eyes. Then she looked at the tired, handsome man behind her, and something inside her softened. "For a school play?" she asked gently. Emily nodded eagerly, a huge smile breaking across her face. "Just for a day." Clara hesitated for only a moment before a genuine smile lit up her own face. "Then I'd be honored." What followed was a week unlike any other. Suddenly, Alexander's sterile, quiet penthouse was filled with life. Clara would meet Emily after school, helping her rehearse lines for the play. He'd come home to find Clara teaching Emily how to braid her hair, or to discover cute, hand-drawn notes packed in Emily's lunchbox. He'd pause outside his daughter's room, listening to the magical sound of her giggles mixing with Clara's soft humming. For the first time in years, the air didn't feel so cold. One evening, as they sat around the dining table, eating takeout pizza, Alexander found himself just watching Clara. The soft light of the apartment caught the gold in her hair, and a feeling he'd long forgotten bloomed in his chest. It felt like warmth. It felt like home. For the first time since his wife passed, he didn't feel so utterly alone. The day of the play arrived. Emily was a vision in a white dress, adorned with tiny golden stars, her face glowing with pure excitement. Backstage, she clutched Clara's hand tightly. "Thank you for being here," she whispered. Clara smiled, her eyes shining as she brushed a stray curl from Emily's cheek. "There's nowhere else I'd rather be." From his seat in the audience, Alexander watched the play. Emily played a little girl who learns that family isn't just about blood, it's about love. And when the final curtain fell, and Emily ran straight into Clara's waiting arms, the hug they shared wasn't acting. It was real. Tears welled in Alexander's eyes. His parents gathered outside. He heard the whispers. She must be Alexander Knight's new wife. He ignored them. His entire world was centered on Clara, who was now kneeling to help Emily with her shoes. She looked up, and their eyes met across the crowded hall. In that one look, everything was said, and everything was understood. Later that night, after tucking a happy, exhausted Emily into bed, Alexander found Clara on the balcony, gazing at the glittering cityscape. "You were incredible with her," he said, his voice soft. "She's a special girl," Clara replied, not turning around. "She just needed someone to see her." Alexander took a step closer, his heart thumping in his chest. "So did I." She finally turned to face him, her eyes searching his. The air between them was warm, charged with unspoken emotions. Clara broke the spell with a small, nervous laugh. "Should probably go. This was supposed to be temporary, remember?" Alexander felt a jolt of panic. He couldn't let this end. "Maybe it doesn't have to be," he said, his voice barely a whisper. Clara hesitated, a flicker of doubt in her eyes. "Are you sure you're not just lonely?" He offered her a faint, genuine smile. "I've been lonely for years, Clara, but with you and Emily, it feels like coming home." Months melted into a beautiful new reality. Clara's temporary role became permanent. She was first Emily's friend, then her confidant, and soon she was simply family. Weekends were no longer silent. They were filled with trips to the park, messy cookie-baking sessions, and painting masterpieces on the living room floor. The quiet penthouse was now a home, echoing with laughter and music. One evening, as the three of them watched the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink, Emily snuggled into her father's lap. "Daddy," she said, her voice filled with childhood certainty, "can Miss Clara stay with us forever?" Clara's eyes widened, and Alexander chuckled, surprised by a tear that slid down his cheek. He looked at Clara, his heart full.
Ouch.
"Only if she wants to, sweetheart," through her own happy tears.
Ouch.
Clara reached for his hand, her fingers lacing with his. "I think," she whispered, "I already do." A year later, they found themselves back at the same school for another play. This time, when Emily stepped into the spotlight, she introduced herself with a proud, beaming smile. "My name is Emily Knight, and that's my mom and dad watching me, in the audience." Clara leaned her head on Alexander's shoulder as he wrapped his arm around her, holding her close. The lonely CEO was lonely no more. Because sometimes, the family you're meant to have doesn't arrive with a grand announcement. It comes softly, disguised as a little girl's hopeful whisper, "Can you pretend to be my mom?" And in that pretense, they all found the most real and beautiful truth of all. Thank you so much for watching. If this story touched your heart, please give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that warm the soul. We'll see you in the next one.